Okay, so have you ever played the Would You Rather game with your kids, or is it just me? This morning, as I was driving my oldest son to school this morning, I was asking him, I said, hey, bud, would you rather live in San Diego or would you rather live here in Salt Lake? And he literally was like, well, let me take a moment to think about this because I've got a lot of reasons why San Diego is awesome, but I've also got maybe more reasons of why Utah's a better fit. And I'm like, oh my gosh, give them all to me because I knew I was going to be shooting this video. So this is from the perspective of not only my family, some of our friends, but also from the perspective of my 12-year-old, almost 13-year-old son. And we're going to hop into it right now. Mariah Curley here. Welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel if this is your very first time here. I'm a licensed and active real estate agent both in California and here in Utah, and this channel is literally everything you need to know about eating, working, playing, sleeping, and living in the Salt Lake City, Utah area. If that's of interest to you, consider subscribing down below and make sure you tap that bell for notifications so you are notified every week we drop a new video. We hear from people like you all the time who are looking to make a move or relocate here to Utah, and we absolutely love it. So if you're thinking about making a move in a week, in a month, or even a year from now, feel free to give us a call, shoot us a text, or send us an email, and it would be our absolute pleasure to connect with you. So like I mentioned, my son and I were talking this morning, and I knew I was going to be recording this video, and I said, hey, bud, would you rather live in San Diego, where he was born and raised and has lived the majority of his life, or would you rather live here in Salt Lake? And so he starts rattling off this huge list. He's like, well, let me tell you what would actually really be perfect. It would be perfect if Salt Lake had an ocean. Okay, yeah. And if they had, he loves the Mexican food in San Diego. So he's like, it'd be perfect if Salt Lake had the ocean and burritos. And I said, okay, fair. Well, we know Salt Lake does not have the ocean. And we know that a lot of those burrito shops, they don't have those here either. So tell me what you think. So we were going back and forth, and he's like, okay, well, number one, San Diego's awesome because of the beach. Like, the beach is fun all year long. And I took my kids back to San Diego recently, and we had such a fun time, and we really just bounced back and forth between the beach and then the hotel and back and forth. And it really doesn't matter what time of year you're in San Diego, that beach is always there, and it's always just phenomenal. One of the things to be aware of, though, on a lot of the beaches in San Diego recently, because they've started having some erosion there, they have brought in, truckloads of rocks. So a lot of the beaches that I know that my family and I love, love, love going to in North County, San Diego, a lot of them just have a lot less sand and a lot of rocks that are there. So be aware of those rocks at the beach. Number two, obviously, San Diego. We were drawn to San Diego, lived there for 15 years, simply because of the weather. The weather in San Diego is really just phenomenal. For all the years that we lived there, I always said, I'm like, we live in vacation land. I feel like I'm on vacation all year long because the weather is just so pleasant. It's so nice. When we would live there, if it got below 60 degrees, people are complaining like, gosh, the weather's terrible today. If it got above, 75 or 80, it's like, gosh, it's really hot out. So just that weather, that temperate climate is such a pleasure. Going right along with that too, because of the proximity of the beach, because of the ocean there, you've got a lot of humidity, but not too much humidity. So you've got this really nice balance of your hands don't feel dry like they do here in Salt Lake, where we've talked about this before on previous videos that I've made. Here in Utah, because it's a desert, it is dry. It is very dry. So some people with their eyes, their hands, their nose, everything just feels a little bit drier. But because of the dryness, the hot, when it gets hot, it doesn't feel like it's as hot because of the humidity, because it's a dry hot. When it's cold here, it's chilly, but it's not that like piercing chilly because it's dry. So it's the dry hot and the dry cold. Where sometimes in San Diego, you've got, because there's a little bit more humidity there, when it gets cold, it feels a lot colder sometimes than it does here in Salt Lake. So the temperature, the climate, very different, obviously, between San Diego and here in Salt Lake. Another big difference, obviously, between the two areas is simply the cost of living. The cost of living is night and day different, really, living in San Diego compared to living in Salt Lake. Salt Lake, the cost of living has gotten more expensive over the years, but relatively speaking, what you can get in San Diego, house-wise, compared to what you can get here in Salt Lake is very different. I remember when we were living in San Diego, I remember just thinking like, gosh, it would be so nice to have a yard where my kids can run around and throw a ball and it not, going over my neighbor's fence and you're, rolling down the hill into the other neighbor's fence. It literally like was this, the yard is this big and we lived in a nice area and a nice neighborhood, but just the yards and lots are a lot smaller. One of the things here when we moved here also, instead of having, and there are sure areas and places here in Salt Lake that have a lot of different tract homes, but in San Diego where we were living, a lot of the different neighborhoods are tract home neighborhoods. So every 1 in 5 homes are typically the same. The lots are a lot smaller. Here in Salt Lake, you're going to have more customized homes. You're going to have, yes, you'll still have homes that, are tract homes, but you don't see it as often. And then one of the things in San Diego that we noticed is a lot of the houses that we had purchased before too all have a homeowners association. Here in Salt Lake, it is becoming more common, but many of the homes that were built, before 2000, majority of them do not have homeowners association unless it's in some kind of resort community. So a little bit different with the housing options, a little bit of difference, obviously, with the cost of living. I know when we were living in San Diego, we still have 4 kids, but when we put our kids in different sports and different activities, honestly, the price, like when we moved here and I signed the kids up for soccer, I went, wait, is that it? Like that would have been, for one kid in San Diego, I could pay for all of them to be in an activity here in Salt Lake. And so I just remember thinking like, oh, okay, wow. There was a big cost savings with that. And then I was able to have, if they wanted to do, more than one sport or they wanted to do more than one thing, we had that option just because of that cost of living and the affordability factor. Going along with outdoor activities, I want to kind of give this one like a tie because San Diego and the San Diegans, they love to be outside. They love to be hiking and biking and, surfing and swimming and doing all those things outside. Here in Utah, I feel like that is very similar as well, except for obviously not surfing, but there is a lot of outdoor activity here in Salt Lake. You've got the skiing, the snowboarding, you've got, all of the fishing, the boating, the kayaking, a lot of different outdoor activities, both in San Diego and here in Salt Lake. So I know people that have moved here because they're like, we love the outdoors, we love the national parks, we love just being out and about. And Utah has that to offer. And so I know personally a lot of Californians that have moved out here simply because they're like, we love just the outdoor activities, which kind of goes on to like the natural beauty of it all too. I always like to say there's a lot of natural beauty everywhere. California is a gorgeous state. Utah is a gorgeous state as well. I remember, I'm born and raised in Northern California, and those redwood trees are just, so beautiful. You've got vineyards, rolling hills with vineyards, and just thinking this is so pretty. And then when my husband and I got married and we moved down to San Diego, and I'm looking at the palm trees and the beach and all that, and I'm just going, it doesn't get any better than this. Like, this is so gorgeous. And then when we moved here to Utah, I'm looking at these mountains and going through the canyons during all the seasons, winter, spring, summer, fall. I mean, it's almost breathtaking where I'm going, this is so so gorgeous. And the same thing goes when we've taken our family to go see the national parks. You're going through Zion, you're going through Bryce, you're looking at the different structures, you're just looking at all the natural beauty and wonders and going, this is like, I don't know if it can get any more beautiful than this. And so the natural beauty that is both here in Utah and also in San Diego is really, phenomenal. So for those of you who love to travel, I feel like, and I could be wrong on this, but for me personally, the San Diego International Airport, easy in, easy out. Like I love the San Diego Airport. It is great. The Salt Lake International Airport too is great. However, they made basically two terminals in the Salt Lake Airport, and now to get to one of the other terminals, I mean, literally, like, put on your hiking boots, not hiking boots, but like literally, like, have your walking shoes on, because it is about a mile walk to get from where you enter to some of those terminals. So just be aware and prepare a little bit extra if you need a little bit extra time, because it is not super convenient. So the San Diego, both airports are really great, and I feel like the accessibility to both are awesome. Like I said, San Diego, I feel like you're in and out easily. Salt Lake, in and out easily. The only thing with Salt Lake is that second terminal. Feel free, like, get your good walking shoes on, because you are going to have a hike to get there. The second thing, let's talk universities for a minute and education. San Diego has some incredible universities in San Diego, around San Diego, really, really good universities. You've got University of San Diego, you got UCSD, and then obviously you've got universities that are outside of San Diego, more in Orange County. You've got LA, and so, UCLA and Riverside and Irvine. I mean, just a lot of different schooling options that are really close to San Diego. Here in Salt Lake, same sort of thing though. There are some phenomenal universities here in and around Salt Lake. You've got University of Utah, you've got Weber State, you've got Westminster, you've got Brigham Young University, you've got Utah Valley University. If you keep going up to Logan, you've got Utah State. So a lot of higher education opportunities here. So education's another big one that I feel like are both fairly comparable. Okay, so let's talk about jobs. Yes, the job market in San Diego, the job market in Salt Lake, there are a lot of different jobs in both areas. Here in Salt Lake, you've got the big startup tech industry that is in the Silicon Slopes, that is kind of named after that tech industry that is in Northern California, the Silicon Valley. Here we've got what they call the Silicon Slopes. So lots of job opportunities there. San Diego is known for having lots of different job opportunities there. And also, in that Orange County area. So you've got a lot of jobs in both places. And let's move on to the family friendly. Now, I know for us, we had all four of our kids in San Diego. Having kids in San Diego, especially during the winter months or summer months, you don't have to wrap your babies up in all of the gear to like bring them outside. It's like, okay, put a little bit blanket around and go for a stroller ride. It just, here in Salt Lake, it's a little bit different, especially if you were having babies here during the winter months. You're going to have to bundle them up, and there are, though, here in Salt Lake, a lot of different places that you can take your kids indoors during the winter time. Same thing during the summertime. If it's too hot or the weather's not nice, there's a lot of indoor, rec facilities that are here with indoor swimming pools. There's a lot of little places that have fun jumps. There's a lot of great parks. And this actually kind of goes, when I was talking to my son about this, when my son and I were talking about this, and I said, okay, well, what do you think's better? He's like, honestly, I feel like Utah has way better parks than San Diego. He goes, we can go to a ton of different parks here, and they're easy to get to. The accessibility, like how close it is. He goes, from our house, we could probably go to 6 different like nice parks that you're going to want to spend an hour at least, because there's picnic areas, there's little pavilions, there's a nice big grassy area. There are great, places to play on the playgrounds. So here in Utah, the proximity to get to different parks in terms of like family friendly are really, really nice. San Diego, there are some great parks, but they are usually fairly crowded because there are not a lot of parks in different areas. And some of the parks, and this was one of the things that I remember thinking like, oh, it was such a bummer. But some of the parks in San Diego, because lots of people are there, some of the parks draw in a lot of homeless population too. So we knew that there were certain parks that we just wouldn't really go to simply because they just didn't feel as safe. The bathrooms, I would not send my kids into the bathroom alone because they just did not feel safe. Here in Utah, for me, they feel very safe, family friendly. I'm there. It feels very different. So my son was like, "Mom, the parks here in Utah are way better than San Diego," which kind of goes on to the next one too, is I mentioned this with proximity and everything. Here, there are things a lot closer. He was like, remember it took us like 16 minutes to get to school. And really, I mean, we were a couple of miles away from my kids' elementary school. But in order to get out of our neighborhood, there were several stop signs and stoplights. By the time you wait to get into the school, it just takes a lot longer. Hi, good morning. Hi. Um, so in order to get into the school, it takes a lot longer. Here we're about the same distance from my kids' school, but it takes me 4 minutes to get the kids to school. They're in, they're out. I can be back home within 10 minutes of dropping my kids off. Here they also have a bus system. So you can take your kids, you can put your kids on the bus, and it's a really good option here as well. So just taking, going different places to get my kids to their soccer practice here, it's a couple of minutes away. To get them to dance, to get them to gymnastics, pickleball, it's just everything's pretty close by. Where in San Diego, I felt like we were in our cars all the time, driving, and things were not right around the corner. There were a lot of things that are 30 minutes away or 40 minutes away, and it wasn't because it wasn't fairly close by. It was just because of the traffic getting from one place to the next. So hopefully this gives you a little snapshot into what my almost 13-year-old and myself and our experiences have been like living in San Diego, living now here in Salt Lake. They both are amazing. They both have their pros, they both have their cons, but they really both are incredibly beautiful states. They both have a ton of different outdoor activities. They both are family friendly, and they both, I know, have a big piece of my heart. San Diego, Salt Lake. If you are thinking about, maybe you're living in, California right now and you're thinking about making a move out here, or maybe you're here in Utah and you're wanting to buy or sell your house, feel free to give our team a call. We hear from people like you all the time, and we absolutely love it. It may be a fit for you, it may not, but I always recommend coming on out here. Feel free, like I said, give our team a call, give us a text, send us a message, let us know you're coming out. We can give you a hotspot guide, kind of touring you through different areas, different neighborhoods, so that you can get a feel, you can get a fit of, yeah, you know what, this might be a great move for my family or I. Or, you know what, I'm really happy where we are and I'm glad we checked it out. So wishing you a wonderful day, and hopefully this gives you a good idea of a little bit between San Diego and Salt Lake. Take care and have a great one. Bye.